Wait, your brother Dean?
I love you so
I gotta
much.
do anything else.
You know, I gotta tell you, you are completely out of those ladies.
What are you lying to?
I'm breakfast at Tiffany's, but this place is strictly in cold blood.
Ramsey's unique cells created a polar covalent bond with the molecules in Eva's mirror.
If I turn on a TV show, show you 5 seconds of footage without the volume, and you see a 28-year-old underwear model pretending to be a 16-year-old sophomore, you instantly know what network you're watching. For 2 decades, the CW had an absolute chokehold on pop culture, from Supernatural to Gossip Girl to the Vampire Diaries to the Arrowverse. But have you ever noticed that literally every single one of these shows feels the exact same? They all have the same dialogue, the same lighting, the same endless 22-episode seasons, the same small town with an inexplicable murder rate. And yet, despite all of that, you watched it anyway. All of it. Every season. Today we're going to do something the CW has never done with its own shows. We're going to be honest about them. We're going to uncover why their shows are so insanely addictive, why they refuse to end, and how the exact formula that made them billions completely destroyed them. Today, a Netflix show gives you 8 episodes, makes you wait 3 years, and then gets canceled. But the CW? They were pumping out 22 to 24 episodes a year, every single year, for like a decade. How is it humanly possible for writers to not run out of ideas? Well, the thing is, every CW show, every single one, is built from the same 4 ingredients. Ingredient 1. A small town or contained world with an utterly implausible concentration of drama. Smallville, Kansas. Mystic Falls, Virginia. Riverdale. A town of approximately 3,000 people that has experienced multiple serial killers, a cult, a drug epidemic, and time travel. Ingredient 2. The love triangle. Always a triangle. Never a square, never resolved early, never allowed to simply be happy for more than 1 episode before something tears them apart. Arrow had Oliver, Laurel, and Sarah. Vampire Diaries had Elena, Stefan, and Damon for 8 seasons. 8 seasons of the same 3 people making the same 3 mistakes. Supernatural didn't even need a traditional love triangle. It just made Dean and Sam's brotherhood so intense that it functioned as one. Ingredient 3. Consequence immunity. Death on the CW is not a destination. It is a temporary inconvenience. A plot pause. Supernatural killed Sam and Dean so many times that the show eventually just made death part of the mythology and kept going. The Flash has reset the timeline so frequently that Barry Allen is personally responsible for more continuity errors than any other character in television history. Ingredient 4. The speech. The cringy team dialogue. The CW saved at least $500,000 in CGI budget by making 2 characters cry in a hallway for 6 minutes. Every episode is exactly 15 minutes of action and 25 minutes of group therapy. Listed out like this, it sounds like a formula for mediocrity. Predictable, repetitive, and you'd be right. It absolutely is a formula. The CW did not accidentally make shows that felt similar. They deliberately engineered a recognizable aesthetic that audiences could identify from the first 30 seconds of any new show and immediately feel at home in. But if they are so repetitive, how exactly does a network make you watch 15 seasons of a show about 2 brothers fighting ghosts in a car? Logically, our brains should have gotten bored. We should have tuned out. But we didn't, because at its core, every CW show runs on the same engine: emotion. The first few seasons of any CW show are almost always its best. The premise is fresh, the characters are being established, the stakes feel real because the audience hasn't realized that nobody actually dies permanently, and the timeline can always be reset. Season 1 of Arrow is a genuinely compelling vigilante thriller. Season 1 of Supernatural is tightly constructed horror-adjacent television. Season 1 of Riverdale is a small-town murder mystery. That first season makes you care about the characters before it starts doing increasingly implausible things to them. And once you care about the characters, once you're 3 seasons deep and you've watched Oliver Queen process his trauma and Damon Salvatore develop a conscience, the show doesn't have to be good anymore. It just has to keep going. Because leaving now means you watched all of that for nothing. And the human brain, it turns out, is very bad at accepting sunk costs. The CW compounds this with its cliffhanger structure. Every episode ends on a question. Every season finale ends on a detonation, something that makes the next season feel mandatory. Supernatural season finales alone generated enough "I cannot believe they did that" energy to power a small city for a decade. Then there's the shipping. Delana, Olicity, Clois. These are multi-season emotional investments that the audience has co-authored through years of watching, theorizing, arguing online, and feeling genuinely betrayed when the writers make the wrong choice. They manufacture drama to keep your brain dripping dopamine. The predictability is comfort, and the repetition is the ritual. You know what you're going to get. But the problem with building an empire on comfort is that it requires that things stay familiar. And television, like any creative medium, eventually demands evolution. Audiences grow and tastes change. And eventually, the very formula that built the CW empire became the exact thing that tore it down. Peak CW was a cultural juggernaut. They had the biggest, most dedicated fandoms on the internet. But look at the network today. It was sold off for pennies, the Arrowverse was quietly taken out back and ended, and Riverdale finished in a literal time-traveling fever dream. What went wrong? Well, every show on this list had a specific, identifiable moment where the audience felt the formula creak under its own weight, where the love triangle that was once emotionally compelling became something you fast-forwarded through, where the season finale cliffhanger generated exhaustion rather than excitement, simply because they stayed exactly the same while everything around them changed. As the streaming wars began, HBO and Apple started dropping cinematic masterpieces with tight 8-episode scripts, but the CW was trapped in their own hamster wheel. They were taking what was realistically 7 episodes worth of actual story and stretching it across 24 agonizing weeks. This created a mountain of mind-numbing filler, and because they had to shoot so much footage, their budgets were stretched thin, which is why the CGI eventually started looking like a PS2 cutscene. Vampire Diaries ran 8 seasons and by the end had killed, resurrected, and re-killed its supporting cast so many times that death had lost all narrative meaning. The show's central love triangle, which drove its first 3 seasons with genuine emotional power, had been stretched so thin by season 6 that it was less a triangle and more a very tired straight line. The Flash did the same thing, but faster, appropriately enough. Season 1's Reverse Flash was a genuinely brilliant villain, but by season 5, the show had introduced so many speedsters, so many timeline resets, and so many variants of the same Barry makes a bad decision and the team has to fix it plot structure that viewers started keeping score of the timeline violations. Supernatural survived longer than any of them, 15 seasons, and its longevity is both its greatest achievement and the clearest evidence of the formula's limitations. The show that began as 2 brothers hunting monsters in a car became, by its later seasons, a cosmic mythology involving God himself as the final villain. Smallville, Arrow, Riverdale, The 100. The decline of every show on this list follows the same pattern. A formula that was built for comfort was applied beyond the point where comfort was sufficient. And the cruel irony is that the formula couldn't evolve. The audience had been trained through multiple seasons of watching the formula to expect the formula. Any significant deviation felt like a betrayal. The shows were essentially trapped by their own success, and the stories completely stagnated. It is so easy to look back at the CW now and laugh. It's easy to mock the bad CGI, the massive amount of filler, the cringe dialogue, and the fact that a 30-year-old Paul Wesley was sitting in a high school history class. We criticize these shows because they never evolved, because they never changed. But honestly, maybe that was the whole point. Maybe a show that never changes is exactly what some people need. Not everything has to be prestige television. Not every story has to evolve and subvert expectations. Some stories just have to keep showing up. When you're a teenager or you're going through a rough time in your life, the world is chaotic. Everything is changing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But when you turned on the CW, you knew exactly what you were going to get. You knew the Winchester brothers were going to ride in that Impala. You knew Barry Allen was going to run down that street. These shows were our comfort food. They were safe. We kept watching for 10, 12, 15 years, not because they were cinematic masterpieces, but because they felt like home. And no matter how much television evolves, a part of us will always miss that. So yeah, that's the CW. Imperfect, repetitive, occasionally completely unhinged, and somehow, against all critical odds, unforgettable.